Happening now, what leaders say will happen if parents don't trust school reopenings. Plus, what we know about the future of Halloween here in Jamestown.
Well, the sun is going to prevail once again today, and temperatures a lot warmer depending on your locality, but more cooler air is on the way. Details next. News at Noon starts right now.
Live and on demand, this is WNY News Now.
And thanks for joining us for WNY News Now on this Wednesday. I'm Justin Gould. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says parents who don't trust a school's COVID reopening plan or have questions about schools that are not reporting COVID-19 data will likely keep their kids at home. Cuomo, during his briefing yesterday, announced a mandatory COVID-19 report card for all public schools here in New York State. When asked about the accuracy of reporting and what happens if school reporting lags, Cuomo says parents will contact the school with their concerns and will have their children stay home if they mistrust. In New York City, testing is only optional until October, reporters pointed out.
The facts come first, Andrew. The information comes first. That's what this dashboard will do. What do I do in all my briefings? Here are the facts. Before I give you any opinion, here are the facts. If you say, they said in the plan, it's not mandatory, it's optional. All right, it's optional. I guess a lot of schools are going to do it. All right, this is gray. I thought optional meant a lot of schools were going to do it. So what do the facts turn out to be? Oh, I just went to the website. No schools are doing it. You said it was optional. I have a right to know that. I'm a parent. You said it was optional and you're not doing it in my child's school. And now I'm going to decide whether or not I'm sending my child to school, knowing that you're not doing any tests in my child's school.
Cuomo cautioned not testing and accurately reporting will create a worse scenario, and he warned that the state will override schools if they see a cluster of positive cases emerge. A Jamestown woman was arrested after allegedly allowing two juveniles to fight in the middle of a city street last night. Jamestown police officers responded to the area of Newland Avenue and Myrtle Streets just before 11:30 p.m. When they arrived on scene, police say they witnessed two juveniles in the middle of the street attempting to fight one another and being disorderly. Police say this was the third time responding to the area for similar issues where 33-year-old Nicole Verrett allegedly let her children run wild. Officers say Verrett was arrested and her kids turned over to a third party. Verrett is charged with 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a child and was taken to Jamestown City Jail pending arraignment in that case. Well, for Americans struggling during the pandemic, another stimulus bill is now on the table, but will lawmakers be able to come to some sort of compromise? Daryl Forges has the latest from Washington for us.
Today, we're releasing a targeted proposal that focuses on several of the most urgent aspects of this crisis.
The Senate unveiling a newly constructed, scaled-down stimulus bill for Americans struggling during the pandemic, which would be paid for in part by unspent money in the existing CARES Act and includes proposals for an extra $300 in weekly unemployment benefits, cut in half from the weekly $600, which expired in July. 2 years of tax credits for parents to cover costs of private and homeschooling, and an extension of the Paycheck Protection Program to the tune of nearly $258 billion, just to name a few.
We're going to get the stonewalling of Democratic leaders out from behind closed doors and put this to a vote out here on the floor.
Senators expecting to bring the aid package to a vote on Thursday, but it's not expected to get the 60 votes it needs to send it to the House, where it's already facing opposition.
It's only a check the box so that some of his endangered Republican senators can go home and say, well, see, I tried. But it isn't trying. It's not even an attempt to do the right thing. And Mitch McConnell knows that because he has to satisfy those Republicans in his caucus who don't want to spend one more dollar.
In Washington, I'm Daryl Fortis reporting.
Daryl, thank you. Republicans also put forth a $1 trillion stimulus bill in July, but that never came to a vote. The revised version of the bill cuts money out for a second round of stimulus checks. Jamestown's population of ghouls, ghosts, superheroes, and princesses will be disappointed this Halloween as the city is canceling its annual Halloween Fun Fest. Leaders say with the addition of COVID-19 making large gatherings difficult and a large financial strain on the municipality from lost revenue, the city will not be holding the Halloween Fun Fest this year. Regardless of financial strains, Jamestown's Recreation Director Julia C. Slahanley says holding the gathering would be difficult to do in the face of COVID-19 safety measures.
We average about 1,800 children and parents who would have come through the doors at the Elm Park Ice Rink. So as you can see, I mean, that's in a 2-hour period. That's a lot of people, and even though it's a large space, it still exceeds our current gathering guidelines. And unfortunately, we don't know where numbers will be by end of October. And even so, with that large of a group, we just didn't see the feasibility in having that kind of event this year.
Now, Cecil Hanley says city administrators are disappointed but had to face the choices they had. As for public door-to-door trick-or-treating, well, leaders say that's coordinated with the Jamestown Police Department, and it's just too early to say what will be done and that the state could even make a directive regarding trick-or-treating. Well, certainly that's on the minds of many as we head towards October. Great to see all of you. Thanks for joining us here for WNY News Now on this Wednesday. Let's check in with the comments and say hello to Amy, Jennifer, Topsy, Kathy, and Kelly. Thanks all so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. Good to see Teresa. Good to see John, Brenda. Dawn, as always, always love to have you on the broadcast. Thanks for joining us. Great to see Charlie, Steve, Nicole, and Rod as well. Good afternoon to you. We appreciate everybody tuning in every day to get a check of their local news headlines. Well, let's switch over now and get a check of that First Defense weather forecast. Chief Forecaster Dakota Hunter standing by with a live shot from our friends down there in Warren, PA. Hey, Dakota.
Hey, Justin, and happy Wednesday, everybody. Can you believe we're already at Wednesday? Of course, the Labor Day week. Of course, on Monday, it's kind of a shortened week for a lot of us. And as Justin mentioned, this is a live look coming over Warren from on top of the city bank right there. 81 degrees right now. And the temperatures today, much like yesterday, they're going to vary depending on your locality because we have a front that is stalled directly across the region. So, of course, we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later on. First Defense Doppler radar, nice and dry, no rain today, and it's going to stay that way throughout the day today and pretty much throughout the upcoming week. Hey, I showed this yesterday. Now is the time to start thinking about the holidays here. So the holiday countdown here, we obviously ticked all the numbers down by 1. Aren't I great at math? 13 days until the first day of autumn, 52 until Halloween, 78 until Thanksgiving, and 107 days until we open up those gifts from Santa Claus himself. 81 degrees was the high yesterday. We beat our forecast high, and again, that was due to that southerly wind with that stalled front. 75 is where we should be this time of the year. 94 and 30 are the record highs and lows for this date set at the airport. So through the afternoon, spread that sunshine on like a jelly or peanut butter or Nutella, whatever you like. Spread it on your bread. Milder today, a few clouds this afternoon, and that stalled front, big temperature difference. 76 further to the north, 87 further to the south of northwestern Pennsylvania, and a light wind. But more fall air is on the way, so if you don't like the heat, more cooler relief is coming. I'll talk about it in a few. Justin?
All right, Dakota, certainly everybody's looking forward to that weekend forecast, and certainly Labor Day shortening the week there, as you mentioned. We'll look forward to it. Thank you. Well, 28 new cases of COVID-19 and 69 recoveries were reported over that Labor Day holiday here in Chautauqua County. Here's an updated look at the COVID-19 case map as it stands now. The Chautauqua County Health Department says there are now 114 cases active, with the majority of the new cases reported in that northeastern section of the county. Furthermore, health officials say 18 of the new cases are SUNY Fredonia students, and 2 are related to that outbreak at Fieldbrook Foods there in Dunkirk. More than 500 cases are under quarantine or isolation order by the public health director, and 2 people remain hospitalized as of Sunday. Since the outbreak began, the county has seen more than 520 people with nearly 400 recoveries. 10 deaths have been reported and nearly 37,000 negative tests related to COVID-19 were also tallied in. Well, researchers have hit the pause button on a coronavirus vaccine trial for now. The drug giant Anastenza says they have stopped global trials after one volunteer in Britain suffered an unexplained illness. The company says it's a standard precaution. The so-called Oxford vaccine was developed by the Britain's University of Oxford in the United States, along with several other countries. Now, Anastenza says the independent experts will now review the data before the trial can resume. The World Health Organization's chief scientist says safety of any potential coronavirus vaccine comes first and foremost.
Just because we talk about speed and scale, it doesn't mean that we start compromising or cutting corners on what would normally be, a process. The process still has to follow the rules of the game, which is that you go through the process of clinical trials. And here, particularly, I'm talking about drugs and vaccines. Diagnostics has evaluation methodology. But for drugs and vaccines which are given to people, you have to test their safety, first and foremost, most important, and the efficacy. That is how effective is the drug.
The Oxford vaccine is one of 3 in late stages right now of phase 3 trials in the United States. Well, coming up next, we tell you about the latest states that were added to New York's COVID-19 travel advisory, and later the twist on this year's 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony. Stay with us as WNY News Now continues.
With coverage that matters, this is WNY News Now.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvan Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you.
I grew up in a single-parent home. We were raised by my mom in a 1-bedroom apartment in Queens, and I slept in what was supposed to be a dining room just off the kitchen. We were poor and fell behind in our bills. More than once our electricity was shut off and there were eviction notices taped to our door. I remember walking into our kitchen and finding my mother standing by the stove, crying to herself because she didn't know what to do and felt helpless. I was about 9 or 10 when our apartment was robbed. I remember arriving home with my mother and brother and finding the door open, feeling confused because the first thing I saw was that our television, a set which forever sat on a stand in the living room, was missing. I know firsthand what it's like to be a victim, to be assaulted, robbed, to have things taken from you which you're never going to get back, and to be scarred by experiences which 30 and 40 years later still haunt me. We're lucky enough to live in Chautauqua County where by and large we feel safe, but unfortunately bad things do happen here. I want to be the district attorney who personally prosecutes the most serious crimes and who's there for victims every step of the way. These are the people I want to represent, to fight for their justice, to fight for our justice in the courtroom, to help people who have suffered at the hands of others. This is why I want to be your district attorney.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
And welcome back. Ohio, which was removed from New York's COVID-19 travel advisory last month, returned to the list yesterday. Governor Andrew Cuomo says in addition to Ohio, Delaware, Maryland, and West Virginia now qualify to be on that list. The advisory requires travelers from New York to areas with significant community spread to quarantine for 14 days. There are now 35 states listed on his travel advisory for having a positive test rate higher than 10 per 100,000 residents over a 7-day rolling average, or an area with a 10% or higher positivity rate over a 7-day rolling average.
Individuals coming from other states continue to be a problem. We now have 35 high-risk states in this country, which is incredible. Delaware, Maryland, Ohio, West Virginia have been added. Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands have been taken off the list.
Well, Puerto Rico and the United States, as mentioned, has been axed from the advisory. Facebook will reportedly pay some of its users to quit using its apps for a while. That's part of a study into the impact of social media on political attitudes and behaviors during this upcoming election, which Facebook announced this week. But the Washington Post later reported that those users could be paid up to $120,000. $120 rather. The paper posted a screenshot of a survey sent to some Instagram users. It tells them that if they opt in, they would deactivate their Facebook or Instagram accounts later this month. The account would then be inactive for either 1 or 6 weeks, and some users would then have to take a survey before their accounts are reactivated. Facebook expects up to 400,000 people to take part in this research. The company says the study would be done by independent researchers who are not paid by Facebook, and the findings are not expected to be published until at least the middle of next year. Well, this pandemic has pushed telehealth visits to an all-time high, and for patients, it might not be a bad thing. Our Mandy Gaither explains more in today's Health Minute.
Telehealth technology has been around for a while, but the pandemic has pushed virtual visits to a new level.
Without a doubt, this move has been inevitable.
Dr. Hal Paz is CEO of the Ohio State Wexner Medical Center. He says their health system went from less than 50 telehealth visits per month back in February to nearly 2,800 a day during the pandemic. Between March and July, they've had more than 200,000 virtual visits.
We've seen the ability for patients to better engage with their doctors.
In Ohio, a Wexner Medical Center report estimates telehealth patients saved not only time, but also money, an estimated $1.1 million in fuel costs from not driving to see their doctor. Missed appointments also dropped by 3%.
Think about banking. How much of banking do we do virtually? Think about retail. I mean, how many things do people now purchase over the internet on their phones? Why would healthcare be any different?
Paz sees the telehealth trend continuing even after this pandemic is done. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Mandy, thank you for your reporting. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says that Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York saw the highest uptick in telehealth primary care visits at the beginning of the pandemic. Iowa, South Dakota, and Oklahoma experienced a 1/3 increase of primary care visits by telehealth in April. The local American Legion and the Chautauqua County Veterans Council will be holding a virtual 9/11 remembrance ceremony this year because of an uptick in COVID-19 cases here. The event will take place at noon on Friday and will be live streamed on the Chautauqua County government Facebook page. The program is to honor and remember the more than 3,000 Americans killed September 11, 2001, when members of the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 planes and crashed them in the World Trade Center in New York City, the Pentagon just outside of Washington, D.C., and a field in Pennsylvania. The program will feature words from local dignitaries and Susan Raleigh, the president of the Blue Star Mothers Lake Erie chapter. Well, we thank you for joining us here for WNY News Now on this Wednesday. Hopefully everybody is having a great day and enjoying themselves out there. Let's switch gears now and get a check of our First Defense weather forecast with Chief Forecaster Dakota Hunter, who is enjoying his new First Defense Weather Center. I think we're all kind of getting used to the new digs here, Dakota. At least
this marks week number 2 we've been here in the studio, because last week was the first week and now we're on week number 2, and things are finally getting broken in around here. And hey, speaking about breaking in, did you take a look at the temperatures yesterday? Let's take a look at Links 1, and we'll take a look at the temperatures from yesterday. Your locality was going to depend on your temperature. We made it here to 81 degrees here in town, 81 Dunkirk. How about 89 in Erie, 89 Dansville, 79 in Buffalo, and this is all in association with a front that is stalled directly across the region. So let's talk about this front a little bit. So obviously when we have a stalled front, you've got a warm front that's warming into cooler air. That's basically running into cooler air. So on the northern end of this front, it's going to be much cooler. Once you go to the southern end of the front, much warmer. That's the case for today. So if you're in the northern towns, I'd say from northern Chautauqua County, basically from Dunkirk to the north to the county line, you're likely going to see cooler temperatures today. Now that's going to all change tomorrow. The front sags further to the south tomorrow. It's going to allow much cooler air to infiltrate. So much of the region, so all the region is going to be much cooler tomorrow than it has been. Right now here in town, 77 at the airport with a variable wind of 3. Dew point up there, so we have a heat index of 79 degrees. So it's a little bit humid out there. So today actually would be a bad day to get out on the Lake Erie waters. 74 is the current temperature off Buffalo, 72 off Erie. North winds at the lakeshore off Dunkirk. North, if you're going down to Erie, the winds are going to be northeast to south, depending on your actual locality there, and waves about a 1 foot or less. Today, the Blue Jays in Buffalo, once again, they're taking on the Yankees. So ready for it? Here it comes. Bam! There goes the ball. So it's the Blue Jays versus the Yankees. 6:37 pitch tonight. 75 down to 68 in Buffalo. Of course, you can't go to the game, but it will be televised. So this is obviously going to be a hard one. Are you going to pull for the Blue Jays or the Yankees? That's a hard one because we've got a lot of fans of both around here. There's that stalled front that is stalled directly across western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. It is not moving today, and you can see this dome of clear skies that is associated with that warm air, and then back behind the northern front, more clouds. Again, that's the cold air. That's the warm air running into the cold air. Snow continues out here in parts of the Rockies. And what's actually interesting is if you look very closely near San Jose, you can actually see some of the wildfire smoke that's currently going on out west. So that's a horrible out there, but it's a very interesting thing to see on satellite imagery. So the zone forecast, Lake Erie shoreline, as I told you, your temperature is going to vary depending on your locality. Further to the south, upper 80s. Near the Lake Erie shoreline to the north, upper 70s. Again, you can think that's stalled front for that. And further inland here, temperatures warmer here because that front, the warmer air, is further to the south, but it's feeling a lot like summer. Next 7 days of your life on the screen right there. 73 tomorrow, that's all areas. 70 on Friday, refreshing air. Weekend, not bad on Saturday. More rain on Sunday, but I don't think it's going to be a total washout. Monday, 67, even with a lot of sunshine. Best we'll be able to do mid-40s as we start Tuesday morning, and we're only going to warm up to at least 70 on Tuesday. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Want weather now? Download the WNY News Now mobile app and stay up to date on severe weather alerts. Plus, anytime hazardous weather strikes, stick with the Southern Tier's only 24/7 streaming network that keeps you safe. You're all in a tornado warning, so now is the time to go to a safe place, small room, lowest floor, near the center, away from windows. What are you waiting for? Download the WNY News Now mobile app today. It's free in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store.
You're watching WNY News Now, your source for breaking news.
There's an old saying, there's no news in the newsroom. Well, it's true. The time I spend at the anchor desk is just part of my day. Most of our time is spent gathering stories in the community, stories that matter to you. We can't do it alone, and we need your help. When you see breaking news or have a news tip we should know about, drop us a line on Facebook today, email our news desk, or call our newsroom at 488-7226 so we can bring those stories straight back to you.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
Hey, welcome back. Here's a look at some tech news headlines. Microsoft just announced a smaller, cheaper Xbox ahead of this holiday season. The company says the Xbox Series S will cost just under $300. That puts it at the same price points as Nintendo Switch. Microsoft didn't announce a release date for the Series S. Gaming systems are in high demand right now due to this pandemic. Microsoft also plans to release its bigger, more expensive Xbox Series X come November. The company hasn't announced what that price will be yet. Meanwhile, Sony's PlayStation 5 is also expected to come out during this holiday season. And we could be seeing the new iPhone 12 very, very soon. Apple is holding a big event next week where many experts expect the company to reveal iPhone 12 with full 5G capabilities. It would be the first iPhone to connect to the new ultra-fast wireless network, but iPhone fans may not want to get their hopes up too soon. There have been questions for months about whether pandemic-related supply chain issues would delay its release, and some tech analysts say that next week's event will primarily focus on Apple's new watch and iPad models. Well, we'll find out when Apple streams the event next Tuesday, September 15th. And Dakota's our in-house techie in addition to weather. You have many hats here, and I know you've watched those in the past. Like you get popcorn in the weather office, you pull it up on the monitors, and you watch.
Yep.
What do you think? You think that we're not going to see an iPhone quite yet?
Well, given the fact that a lot of the high credible Apple rumors are suggesting that the iPhone 12 is actually delayed due to the pandemic, hey, we're doing a show here.
Dakota faces the street.
Yes,
that's
there's one for the blooper reel. But yeah, a lot of the high quality Apple rumors do suggest that iPhone 12 might be delayed due to obviously the COVID concerns and obviously the pandemic. And what came out yesterday when Apple announced the event is it's likely going to be focused on Apple Watch Series 6 and a new iPad Air that will likely mimic the design of the iPad Pro. And obviously Apple never talks about what they're going to, Apple never talks about what they're going to release until they release it, so it's a big surprise. But my advice to everybody is don't count on the iPhone being unveiled next week. We think some of the rumors are suggesting there might be another event next month where we'll see the new iPhone models be unveiled.
And I know we've talked about this before because of COVID-19. It seems like a lot of people aren't just spending happily on tech anymore like they used to. We're being a little more conservative.
It's now like a necessity now.
Yeah. And I think, with people who are working from home, like they'll use the devices, but at the same time, they're like, well, how much am I going to really spend on a brand new phone? And Apple recently, if I'm correct, released a version of a kind of less expensive iPhone that a lot of people said was just happenstance. It didn't really have much to do with COVID-19.
Yes. The newer, cheaper iPhone is the second generation iPhone SE, which is basically it's the iPhone 8 with the iPhone 11's internals. And our Storm Hartman actually has the second generation SE, and he says he absolutely loves it. And that's coming from a guy who is mostly an Android person. So that tells you right there how well the iPhone SE really is. And it's a lot smaller than the iPhone 11. It still retains the popular design that the iPhone 8 had with a better camera, much faster internals. And with that lower price point, it's really talking to people, especially now with the pandemic, it's talking to people who might need an upgrade from a 6 or a 6S, or who just want to try an iPhone for the first time. Now you can at a much cheaper price point instead of going $800 for the iPhone 11, which I have here. I mean, it's a lot cheaper to spend $400 versus $800.
Yeah, it certainly is. And it's great that your iPhone matches the colors of WNY.
I know, isn't it nice?
It's perfect.
The smart cover on my iPad does too.
Yeah.
I have the product red smart cover on my iPad.
Well, you got to match.
Yes.
You got to match always.
I have the product red iPhone. The only thing I don't have is a product red MacBook Pro, and that's only because Apple hasn't released that yet. Yeah. But I guarantee you, if Apple does release a product red MacBook Pro, I will have one sitting right here.
Well, just spray paint it. Why?
Yeah, no.
Why not? No.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
You wouldn't let me near your Apple device. Yeah, I'm a Windows person, but I like my Apple Watch. It's so weird. It's like Apple has converted me now. I've always been a Windows PC kind of guy. I like the functionality.
You see, the thing is,
these are nice.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is, Apple makes all their devices work so well together while still remaining separate. A Mac is a Mac, the iPhone is the iPhone, the iPad is an iPad, but they work so well together, it's like, why would you not have a Mac and an iPhone and an iPad and an Apple Watch and an Apple TV? Because they all just work so well together. That's why it's called the Apple ecosystem.
Right, and when you need technology just to work, it's that. It's just like our mobile app. It just works.
Yes.
Here it is. Speaking
we
of...
talked so long, we skipped over final weather, but that's all right.
That's all right. I'd rather talk about tech. That's it for us. We're back actually at 1 o'clock because local officials are going to be holding an announcement in Celeron, and our sources tell us that they're going to be talking about how much CARES funding has finally been delivered to Chautauqua County amid the pandemic. Live coverage of that starts in about half an hour. We'll see you back then.